Okay, so I'll just get a bit of glue on our glued bottom and get this right in, and I'm looking for exactly that, just to cover the bit of the fence post as hedges would. Okay, starting to get there, a little bit at the back, so okay, see if we can get this off. There we go. So again, you sometimes get them break because the lichen particularly is quite fragile. Some people put theirs in the oven to solidify it. The problem with that is if you do it for even like a minute too long, all you get is like an ash. As soon as you pick it up, it turns into an absolute mess. So I don't bother, and I just accept the fact that occasionally I'm going to have to do something like I've just done. And so there we go. We're gluing that in there. We'll leave that to go. So a couple of things just to finish off, because we've got a nice little bit of hedge going on there. Just going to put a few little bits over the fence post. Okay, so nice thin bit of lichen. In fact, I don't like that bit, so we'll just break that off. Okay, and we'll pop this down. In fact, I'm going to put that into two pieces. Okay, so there's one of them. Dab of glue on there. And pop that in maybe about there. In fact, we'll cut off a bit of that glue because it's just a little bit too obtrusive. There we go. Okay, and again, just burnish it down so we can't see the bits sticking up. Okay, and the other half maybe in between, like so. Okay, and then I'm going to get my bit of polyfibre version. And so there we've got a little bit too much glue that's spread through there, so all I'm going to do is chop off the excess. Okay, and in fact I'm going to make that into maybe a couple of plants. Okay, so the beauty of polyfibre is that once you've got it all glued, you can tease various bits into different shapes and it works quite nicely. So we'll stick a little bit of glue in there and then we'll pop that down in here as if it's some sort of rambling plant that's climbing all over the churn block. Helps not to stick your finger to it, mind. Okay. There we go, and we can always come back to that later on and glue it down over the block. Well, actually that's not too bad. Okay. So, didn't need to use all of our bits of plants, so that's fine, they just go in the cupboard for next time. Although what I might just do, is grab another bit of the polyfly, but I'm literally just pulling that apart and off, and I'm going to stick it across the back of the churn block just to hide that little gap that's in there. Okay, so again, just make sure it's nicely down in the glue, and the job is reasonable. Okay, so starting to look like what we need it to look like. Just needs a few bits of scatter and various weeds and bits and pieces, and then we're pretty much there. So okay, so first thing I'm going to do is get some long fibres in, and I'm going to use some 12 mils, and quite frankly I hardly ever use 12 mil with a static grass applicator, because quite frankly the majority, unless you've got a very high powered static grass applicator like a Beeflock or a Greenkeeper, they're not going to stand up. Most of them are going to be horizontal. So these are knock. That's a light green, and this one is a meadow. And basically what I've done is I've pulled out by hand a little clump. Okay, a little doddy dab of PVA on it just to hold them together and stick them down. And I'm going into my drainage ditch with them like so. Okay, so then we'll get a kind of, the temptation is to make them all the same size, which again, not actually the way nature would be, so to speak. So I'm going to get a slightly smaller one here with a bit of luck, and again just PVA on the end and stick them in the drainage ditch. Okay, so what we're effectively simulating there is that sort of long weed growth. I mean, if you think about it in 4 mil scale, 12 mil static grass is 3 foot high, you know. I mean, really, you don't see that much of that about compared to the other stuff. So that'll do us for that side, and yeah, maybe another bit in the bottom there, right in the corner, I think. So, and again, the real knack here is to make sure you've not got any stray ones, so that they all get glued. Okay, so I'm going to go right in the corner with that one. Work them so that they're vertical, and hopefully you'll pick that up. If not, we'll put a short still in to show you in a moment. And so I'm just going to turn that round and do the rest of that drainage ditch on the other side of the farm track. So again, what we're looking at here is a relatively natural, sort of most of them vertical, some of them canting out kind of arrangement. And again, we're not trying to be too fussy about it, because quite frankly there's other stuff going to be around it, so you know, if one or two end up tipping over, that's kind of how it goes. Okay, so we'll see where we're at with the drainage ditch now. And what we're going to do next is just get a bit of flock on there, and we are almost finished. So, first thing we need to do is I'm going to leave that to dry a minute and work on this side. So looking for, well, we'll start with some grass blend and just building up. Okay. And then we'll add some slightly different colours. Just got to watch, don't get too much on the road here. Okay, that's green grass, the dark foam is what I want. Okay. And then we're just going to get some bits and pieces of plant in there. So, actually, I forgot to put on my bit of hedge, so we'll come back to that maybe later on. But yeah, so here we go. This will do. If I break off a little bit of that, and maybe split that in half. Yeah, that'll do nicely. So then it's you can also fix these down with hairspray actually, but just again another way of dealing with it. We'll get some flock on there in a mo. And then that one we're going to halve. So we get a couple of little bits of plant. And maybe put that one in just on the bank over there. And this one just on the top of the bank there. Okay, so again we just need to get in and burnish that down. Yeah, and that one as well. Okay, so yeah, good bit just there. Again, we'll trim off a little bit of excess. It's really, I'm looking for a slightly longer, thinner shape. There we go. Popping that in over there. Right, so a little bit more flock and bits and pieces in the middle here. And then we're pretty much done actually. Again, making sure we don't leave any fibres on the road with a bit of luck. So, and again, these little puffer bottles, what you can sometimes find is that you puffer out a quite natural looking clump. But it's quite accurate as where you can place it. Takes a bit of practice. Okay, so last few bits and pieces, bit of a spray just to hold everything in place. And you can see that here we've got a little bit of a unsightly edge. So I'm just going to disguise that with a bit of that leftover clumped up grass that we pulled off one of the bits of lichen. Just a little bit of hairspray, and in we go with that, and we'll fluff it out a bit so it looks a bit more realistic. There we go. Okay, that'll do. And a little bit of flock just to match it out. Okay, so very last thing, I promise you, got various bits of scatter. That one's from our friends at Scenics. Natural Scenics, if you can find them, do a similar thing. And for years and years and years, I've had some very small bags from, I think these came from Green Scenes in lots of different colours. So all I'm going to do is get a tiny pinch between my fingers and just drop in the odd little bit of colour. You imagine, I don't know, poppies or something like that. Okay, we'll deal with those in a mo. And again, if you get them in the wrong place and you can't sweep them off, you can always pick them up with the tweezers. Okay, so I don't really want those floating in the air, that's a bit better. Okay, maybe put a little bit of light pink on one of these verge areas. I don't know. I would say with colour of flowers and stuff, it's kind of a less is more circumstance. In fact, that's got way too much on, so I'm going to take some of those out. Okay, there we go. And the last thing I'm going to do is pop some bright yellow onto one of these bushes. So we could be looking at gorse, although you've got to watch gorse because of the time of year. Okay, that'll do nicely. And then maybe just a little bit of cream from the old Natural Scenics. Okay, and we'll pop that on that one. Just, I don't know, little buds, flowers, whatever. Okay, that'll do us. Deal with that in a minute. And we've got one little bit of poppy that's escaped into the hayfield, which we don't want, so we'll repopulate that. And nice gentle bit of hairspray to hold everything in place. Got to be a bit gentle with this spray because you don't want to actually upset where you planted them. So there we go. kind of, I think, finished. So, not bad, not bad. So I'll take some stills of this and pop those up so you can see some detail, and then we'll pop up a list of what we use.